We believe that racism is a real threat to students' physical and psychological well-being, and that systems of structural racism have oppressed students of color. It isn't enough that we aren't racist. We have to take anti-racist action, and we have to make sure it's strategic and intentional. And so tonight we want to commit publicly and make it clear that we plan to keep learning and taking action, that we will make mistakes, but we'll keep trying to do better and better. Changing systems means a deep examination of policies, prior decisions, and other actions in order to make real change. I am committed to being relentless in seeking change. Some of these changes will be very public, and some will be more subtle and behind the scenes, but the commitment is there and it is genuine. This is a really important first step as a new board to achieve our collective vision for Salem-Keizer Public Schools. We are focusing on eliminating all barriers so that students get an education free of bias and systemic and structural racism. Tonight is a first reading, and we plan to adopt it at the October board meeting. We really strongly urge additional feedback from all of the board members as well as the community, which we will attempt to work in and incorporate before bringing it back for the October meeting. Thanks so much. I think we're not going to read the whole thing in its totality tonight, but we really encourage everybody to take a look and provide us that critical feedback so that we can take action next board meeting and implement this important commitment publicly. Thank you.
Yes, Director Heyen.
Oh, in its present form, I don't plan to vote for it. I've been voting for equity policy every year. I believe the first year was 2015, 2016, my first year on the board. And it doesn't seem like this policy has made a difference to me. It seems like there is more anger and more divisiveness than less. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if this doesn't equate to what's happening in the schools or, you know, what's going on. But to me, I just sense things are more challenged. And then also, even though you kind of define white supremacy in the first one, the term white supremacy is kind of like a tennis ball in a tennis match. It's thrown around so loosely to insult people. It's thrown around to shut people down. When you want to end a conversation, just call them a white supremacist. It's used to shame people. It's used against more conservatives than it is liberal people, the other side of the aisle. And like Larry Elder, an African-American man running for governor of California, has been called a white supremacist. So to me, all this makes no sense. A true white supremacist is proud of being a white supremacist. Don't you think that the Nazis were proud of what they were doing? I think they were. And I am just kind of concerned the way that we start out with this and the way our community currently uses the word inappropriately will cause more challenges in the future. And that's my comment. Oh, sorry, one more thing. And this is something I get beat up for every year, but I'm going to say it anyway. To me, every single child is a child of God, and they are important. And one child is not more important than another. They only have themselves. They have their one life, and that's it. They're not part of a group of students. They're individuals, and they have a right to get an education. They have a right to be cared about and not slammed or be treated badly because of their race or anything else. They are all special. And the other concern I have with these policies is we're saying some people are more special than others. And God created us equally.
And what we're trying to do here is make sure that there's no power and privilege over just because of the color of your skin, when historically white supremacists have enslaved people. White supremacists use power and privilege using racist and divisive and hateful signs, language, flags now, and that's not what we want in this school district. We want to make sure that it has no place or no home within this district, so all students are feel welcome, accepted for who they are, just like you're saying, because they need to be.
And you know what? Slavery is abhorrent, and unfortunately it still happens in the world. And unfortunately, it's not just white supremacists that enslave people. Africans enslave other Africans. My son's cousins who are Cambodian were enslaved by Africans. So it's unfortunately a world issue that has been a historical issue throughout all time.
And we can make a change. And we can make a change right here at this district, in this city, in this community. Any other statements? Yes, Director Guzman-Ortiz.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to, I understand that this is the first reading, so I'm not quite sure what the next steps are, but I would like to include Asian community into paragraph 5. I noticed that we left it out, and I think that, the Asian community and our Asian brothers and sisters are also impacted by racism and white supremacy and a lot of other, racism as well. And I just like to invite us that, to self-reflect if the words white supremacy, or if, being called a white supremacist brings out defensiveness, let's explore the why. Because that, we have to think about why the defensiveness, why the rejection of it, rather than questioning and thinking about in a more macro scale, why it is important to call out white supremacy, why it is important to call out structural racism. And people of all skin color can be racist. We talk about colorism within our own community, of the Latinx community. We talk about anti-Blackness within our own Latinx community. So these are wider issues, and I think that people have the responsibility to go ahead and educate themselves, read and self-reflect as to why the defensiveness when reading and hearing racism, white supremacists, and a lot of these other terms, because there are ways of talking about systems, ways of talking about the work and it is important to acknowledge the issue in order for us to be able to do the work to improve our education system. So I really appreciate this resolution. I think it is a starting point. These are words written on paper here, and it is a starting point for how we can, as a district, as board members, better show up for our students, for our educators as well. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Well, I would really like to respond to that, Mr. Chair. So I am a mother to a person of color. I'm a mother to Hispanic grandchildren, or grandmother to Hispanic grandchildren. And for the last 2 years, certain people have decided I'm a white supremacist because of some picture and some relationship to a group I'm not a part of, but my husband is. And that would be the 3% group. Now, I do know some 3%ers. I don't know any of them to be racist. In fact, the first gentleman to speak at our last meeting, the Black gentleman, is a member of the 3%. I don't think he's a white supremacist. And so I have been called names, and yes, it's sensitive. It's very hurtful because I am not that kind of person. And you try being attacked for 2 years, publicly attacked, in the first page of the paper, and you think you can come to me and tell me I'm too sensitive. Yes, I'm sensitive. I've been lied about for too long, and I'm tired of it. So yes, that word, it's a trigger word for me at this point. And I'm about ready to start suing people that call me things that are not true, because that's called slander. And so that's why I have a problem with the way this starts out. I mean, yes, white supremacy is abhorrent. It is. But unfortunately, the term gets used incorrectly too much. And perhaps a different word or title to try to convey what you're trying to say, because we want all our kids to be treasured for who they are.